Hey, Lava Man team. Nicole and I are looking forward to seeing you in, I guess, less than 3 weeks. Next weekend, I believe it's scheduled on the 18th, and you're welcome to move that workout around as you need to. But next weekend is your absolute number one most critical workout of the whole season. It's a brick workout, it's a race simulation workout, it's a bike run. Some people in the past have asked me why not swim beforehand. If you have the opportunity that you can go on a bike ride immediately from the swim and it's a place that you can run afterwards, then I would say great. But for most people, where they swim is at least a 10-minute drive. And so by the time they leave the pool where they swim to go get in all their bike stuff, it takes, can take up to 30 minutes. And in my mind, that sort of negates the reason for doing a swim. But if you can do a swim, change at the place you swim, immediately hop on your bike and go for a run afterwards, and great. Add a swim, add like a 20-30 minute swim, that would be fantastic. For most of us, that's not an option. So I have in the workout and training piece, you'll see three main distances: 25-mile bike ride, 5-mile run, and then a 30 and 6 and a 35 and 7. I'm also going to add up here a 20 and 4. So why so many choices? Well, the reason for all these choices is, I think we have, 25, 26 people on the team at least. And most of you guys are all on a different spot. So I know from years past, there's probably a few of you where the training hasn't quite gone maybe like you planned it or like you wanted it to go. And so for you, you may be doing a 20-mile bike ride and a 4-mile run. If you can finish that workout, then you'll be able to finish the Lava Man triathlon. So and if that feels like a lot, I would still really encourage you to get out there, even if you walk all the 4 miles, just get the distance in. Otherwise, race day is going to be quite a shock to you. Now, ideally and minimum, I'd like to see you go 25-mile bike ride, 5-mile run. That's the distance of the bike ride for the race. A little short on the run, but that's going to be an excellent workout to get you ready for Lava Man. If you have more fitness than that, going 30-mile bike ride, 6-mile run, or 35-mile bike ride, 7-mile run, both of those are going to really over prepare you for the race. So anytime, when the race is a shorter race, like an Olympic distance, that you can do more than the race calls for, it's going to allow you when you're in the race to go harder. And so that would be the reasoning for going more. Now, as you get up to some of the longer distances, like especially Ironman, it's not necessarily practical or wise to go longer than the race distances in a brick workout because it's just too hard to recover. But for this workout, this will give you 2 weeks time to recover before the race. Now, if you live in an area and you have really great weather on, maybe say it's a Thursday or Friday, and you have that day off where you can switch your work days around and do it on one of those days, then I would say absolutely great, go for it. Coming up this week, this is really your number one workout. So anything you have to move around during the week, go ahead and do it. It's really the number one workout of the season. So really want you guys to get that in. Now, some of you have already, if you're doing pack and ship, may have your bike already in a box. So maybe you have a second bike, a road bike that you could use, maybe not. In other case, I would say you're probably going to need to go to a gym and use one of the spin bikes. Now, with the spin bikes or some of these indoor bikes, a lot of times it records your speed maybe higher than you would ride outside. So if you're riding, say, 25 miles and you're using a bike, or maybe it doesn't have distance at all, and so you can convert it to time. So let's say, we want to do a 25-mile bike ride, and if you ride 20 miles an hour, which is pretty fast, then that's going to take you an hour and 15 minutes. So you need to do that bike ride by time and go for an hour and 15 minutes. If you ride 15 miles an hour, then you're going to get 15 miles, obviously, in that first hour, and then you're trying to tack another 10 miles on. So that's 2/3. So now you're looking at 40 minutes. So now you want to bike an hour and 40 minutes. So you can convert based on, what sort of time or what sort of speed you ride at. You convert that to time if you're riding inside, because you don't want to short yourself. You don't want to go have the bike, say you're riding 22 miles an hour and then you only end up riding for an hour and 10 minutes when you really need to be riding for an hour and 25 minutes, right? Because that's going to make the workout a little bit too easy for you. And then come race day, you're going to be a little bit surprised that the race is harder based on the workout that you did in this race brick, okay? We might be interrupted by my nephew and his friend who are playing, so that'll be interesting. They're about to walk in the door. Side note. So, bike harder. Why bike harder? Well, I want you to bike harder because in the race, what's going to happen, this is what typically happens with people, is that they, in the race time, they have so much adrenaline. There's Ryan. Hey, Ryan. There's Getty.
Hey.
They ended up biking harder in the race, and so they get off to run, and it's a lot harder than they expected, and their legs are a bit fatigued. So in practice, what I want you to do is I want you to bike a little bit harder than you think you're going to bike in the race. And so how do you figure that out? Well, if you use heart rate and you've done some heart rate testing and you know what those heart rates are, great, you can use that. If that's not the case, you don't want to start now because you want some experience with heart rate. If you have a power meter, you probably know what watts you want to ride at. Generally, in an Olympic distance, you might want to be, above 85 to 95 percent of your functional threshold power. Depends on where you're at. If you're more beginning, probably more around that 85 mark. But let's look at perceived exertion. If you're looking at this race and you're thinking, okay, it's going to be a challenge for me to finish this race, you really want to keep everything moderate. That's going to be in that aerobic zone. So you can use perceived exertion. What we want to do is if you are worried that that the race is going to be difficult for you, you want to stick at a moderate level. This is an aerobic level. This is a level that allows you to go for hours at a time, right? If you're feeling more advanced and you're more competitive and you're pushing yourself and racing against yourself, you can go more at a moderately hard level. If you're very advanced and you've been racing for a long time, then you can probably do quite a bit of the bike ride in the race at more of a hard level. Myself, I would probably be between moderately hard and hard for the bike ride. Now, in this brick workout, as much as you can, like let's say you're picking moderate for yourself for the race, try to ride a bit more of the bike ride moderately hard, so harder than you would at your race pace effort. Same thing if you're doing the race moderately hard, see how much you can ride hard. Because that way when you get off the bike, your legs are going to be quite fatigued and it's going to be a harder run for you in practice, which will make the race easier. Okay? So let's talk about the run. After the run, you want to ask yourself, how did that go? Because a lot of it will have to do with how hard you biked and your fueling choices. So if this run is really hard, then that's an indication that you maybe biked a little bit too hard. So you can think about your perceived exertion. If you're doing it outside, you can think about your speed. Okay, so analyze your run afterwards to help you race. If you're a more advanced athlete and you have really good fitness and you're really competitive, I would even encourage you to do this run split in what we call swing pace. So think about the pace you want to run your race at. Could be 7-minute pace, could be 8-minute pace, could be 8-10 pace. I just picked 8-minute pace because it's simple. So we want to go the odd miles, we want to be a little bit slow, and the even miles, we want to be a little bit faster. So at 8 minutes, I'm going to swing around that 10 seconds per mile. So the first mile, I'm going to run a little bit slower at 8:10 pace, let my body adjust. In mile 2, I'm going to try to drop that down to a 7:50 pace. Mile 3 back to 8:10, maybe 8:20, depending on how I feel. And then mile 4, try to go back to 7:50. Mile 5 back to 8:10. Mile 6, try to drop that under 8-minute pace. So we want to just change that effort. And it's a good thing to do because, in the race and even at Lava Man, the race course is going to change your effort. About mile 2, when you start running uphill, your pace is the effort's going to get harder, but the pace is going to naturally drop. And so you want, in this type of workout, if you have the fitness, to condition yourself to, as you crest that hill, to be able to pick it up effort-wise running again so that you can get that average pace down. Okay? So that's a great thing to do. The other thing that I want you to think about is this entire workout it's really practice for pre-race nutrition as also race nutrition and hydration. What do I mean by that? Well, think about you're in your hotel room. You probably don't have a cooking stove and a full refrigerator. So what are you going to have access to at 3:30, 4 in the morning in Hawaii that you're going to make? Maybe it's some cereal, maybe it's granola, maybe it's banana with peanut butter. Whatever it is you think you're going to be eating race day, eat that on this workout and also try to do it timing wise. So let's say for Lava Man, your race is going to start at 7:30. You may want to get in that breakfast around 4:30 or 5. So even though it will require you waking a little bit up early on this workout, try to treat it like a race. Get up a little bit early, have that same food that you have so you give it a chance to digest so you can see how it works in this workout in case you need to tweak it for the race, okay? Now, with transition at Lava Man, oftentimes it closes, and then some of the people who are in the last waves, they're standing around for maybe of an hour. And so it might be a good thing to do to just take like a packet of gel or some chomps, blocks, and whatnot, maybe about 100 calories. And then about 15 minutes before your race, take that goo or, that food that's about 100 calories. About 50 minutes before the race, follow it with some water, and that'll give you a little bit of boost fuel-wise going in the swim since you've been kicked out of transition, close to an hour ago, just standing around waiting. Those of you that are starting earlier in the swim waves, you may not need to worry about that. So think about that. And then this workout is also an excellent opportunity to think about your fueling plan, both your hydration and your nutrition. Myself, I try to take in about 200 calories, 2 to 250 calories on the bike ride. So the bike would take me about an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm probably looking at least like say 300 calories. Normally I try to get in one bigger bottle, like it's a 22-ounce bottle per hour. And so in that case, I would only take in like a bottle and maybe a quarter. But in Hawaii, when I've done the race, I've actually went through at least 2 big bottles just because of the heat and the humidity. So I would drink more over in Hawaii. Now, in the past, we've had some people who are not competent or confident about riding and drinking at the same time. And unfortunately, what they try to do is do the majority of the bike ride and not really take any fluid in. And what happens is they get so dehydrated that they either haven't finished the race or the run just is really tough on them. So if you're a person that's not comfortable, whether it's an arrow straw that you can keep your hands on the handlebars and drink out of, or be able to ride one-handed and grab a bottle of water and drink out of it, if that's you and that you're not comfortable doing that, then I would actually advise you to pull over on the side of the road, stop for 30 seconds, take as big a gulp as you can, and maybe do that 3 or 4 times so that you can stay hydrated. Now, obviously, I would rather have you just drinking while you're cycling. But I know that there are definitely some people, maybe not on this team, we've had them in the past, who aren't comfortable doing that. You still need to get your hydration in, okay? So if that means you stop on the side of the road, pull off as far right as possible, get out of everybody's way, and take in fluid, then that's what you need to do, okay? So that's the workout. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And I would also love to know how it goes. Hop on our group Facebook page and just post a note about how the workout went for you next week. All right. Thanks. See you soon.